Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good. If I can wait, something's coming. I don't know what it is, but it is gonna be great. With a click, with a shock, phone will jingle, door will knock. Open the latch.
Hello and welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel, your YouTube home for lively conversation on the lively arts in St. Louis and beyond. And in this episode, my guest is Karen Mason, who is probably best described by her website, singer, actor, sensation. With a string of starring roles on Broadway and multiple critically acclaimed cabaret shows to her credit, Karen Mason is the real deal. She's closing the Cabaret Project's Ballroom Cabaret Series April 4 and 5, 2024 with All That Jazz, her celebration of the music of the legendary songwriting team of John Kander and Fred Ebb. If that's in the past, as you're watching this, check out Karen Mason's website in the video description field below to find out where and when she's appearing now. We start the interview in just a minute, but first, as usual, here's a bit of video.
I was sitting on a sand dune in Santa Cruz or Monterey. Well, anyway, I could feel the trickle on my cheek of ocean spray. Oh, a perfect day. Well, anyway, I remember that I turned to Sam and said, or was it Fred? Well, anyway, I should be up, and yet I'm down instead. Something's missing, Sam. Something's missing, Fred. Something's missing here. Where are my colored lights, beads and bleachers and colored lights, passing smiles round and round, thumping on papa organ sound, noisy voice long and lean, giggles of girls in the mezzanine, filtered through colored lights, gold and amber and green.
Okay, as promised, here I am with my guest, Karen Mason. Such a pleasure to finally see you sort of in person. Just so you know, folks, I have seen Karen perform on stage, but I don't think we've ever met in person. So
No, I don't think so.
yeah. And this is despite the fact that Karen is from St. Louis and Chicago originally. So you just never know.
Those formative 1st through 8th grade.
Oh, yeah.
We're out in Florissant, Missouri at St. Dismas. I don't even know if there is still a St. Dismas, but
I'm going to assume there is. I don't live anywhere near Florissant, so I have no idea. But we are here to talk. Well, we're here to talk about Karen's appearance, which, as we are recording this, is coming up in a week, April 4 and 5, at the place where I'm standing in front of virtually right now, the Cabaret Project of St. Louis's special performance space at the Sheldon Ballroom here in St. Louis. And you are doing a Kander and Ebb show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very cool. Tell us about that. That is one of the great songwriting teams in history, and somehow not as many people know that as they do some of the more famous teams.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I just did this private party for a group that was here in New York from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and this was the donors for the Walton Arts Center, and I did some of the Kander and Ebb songs, and it's funny, people, I don't know Kander and Ebb, and then you go Cabaret, New York, you know, blah, 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 Chicago. And they all go, oh. So yes, my first introduction to Kander and Ebb was, I mean, certainly when I was growing up and hearing all of the great songs that for me, for my voice type, you know, just totally fit. And I could actually sing those songs. So it was really good for me. And then I did In the World Goes Round, the off-Broadway show that was done in 19 many years ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
And yeah, a while back. And you know, we got a chance to work with John and Fred, and it was a joy. I mean, they were spectacular people and brilliant artists. And you know, their music just speaks to me. I mean, it's got a sense of humor. It's very New York, but it's very, very universal. You know, the sense of humor can be very, very New York, but it's, you know, some of the jokes are just really they're just so brilliant, but then they turn around and write a song like My Coloring Book that
was,
you know, is a beautiful gem.
Yeah.
Or, you know, from Scottsboro Boys, the When I'm Gonna Go Back Home. It, you know, just on a dime, they can change from hysterical to beautiful.
And that is a good point, because that may be, now that you mentioned that, maybe one of the reasons they're not more well known is unlike, say, I don't know, Rodgers and Hammerstein, there's no single definable style. They are very eclectic.
Well, that's interesting. I think it's also our, you know, the way that the culture is that, you know, Hammerstein and Rodgers and Hammerstein, those songs became part of, you know, people looked to Broadway for the popular songs. So people were, I think, much more aware of, and they always had Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma. You know, Kander and Ebb don't put their name above the title necessarily. And so it's, you know, it's just a different way that our culture deals with songwriters and composers. And you know, once you tell people what they've written, they acknowledge it, you know, oh yeah, right off the bat.
I'm going to ask you, as someone who's done a lot of Kander and Ebb, I've always felt that there's sort of a Kurt Weill-ish, you know, kind of a Brecht and Weill kind of feeling to some of their work. I mean, is that just me, or is that ever something?
You know, I think John is very eclectic. John is, you know, using your word, very eclectic. And he, I'm sure he's influenced by classical and Kurt Weill. And yeah, when they need to be, they can do that boom, ginger, boom, ginger, boom, ginger. Yeah. That is very Kurt Weill, very, you know, of that era. And yeah, I think he's got a lot of different influences. Then he turns around and writes, you know, New York, New York, which, you know, has got some strange, wonderful chords in it, but is a very, you know, is much of very definitely a pop song, pop ballad.
A big hit. So you're going to be here in St. Louis doing your Kander and Ebb show. What should folks expect to see? I mean, what do you really want to punch up about this show that'll bring people in here and put butts in seats?
Well, I think that, well, I hope they do come, because Kander and Ebb have written, you know, they have an amazing canon of work, and we'll be doing some of the big ones, some of the, you know, All That Jazz and Cabaret, and you know, the song that was my first solo and The World Goes Round, which is Colored Lights, which is, I think, a brilliant song, you know, My Coloring Book. But then introducing a couple of songs that I did not know, but that my director, Barry Kleinbort, introduced me to, Life of the Party. We'll do a little bit of Willkommen. You know, it's a very, maybe this time.
Mhm.
We have a really nice stuff you'll know, and stuff that'll be a you know, a new introduction to some new Kander and Ebb song for you. But
Something
always
that could
with a
be your next
great sense of humor and yeah, and heart.
something that could
A
be your
lot of
next
heart.
favorite song. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Now, who is playing with you in this? I didn't think to check on that before I started this. I mean,
My music director of 32 years, Christopher Denny.
okay.
Yeah, he and I have worked together for 32 years, since our first job was 1992. And so he's coming with me to St. Louis, which I'm really excited about. Yeah.
And you know that is so important. I don't know how many people appreciate this, but anyone who's ever worked in the cabaret field and has worked with a music director knows that that relationship is so important.
Oh,
I mean, it's
you know, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, I would just that was just the point I wanted to make. I mean, I'm speaking
Yeah.
partly from my own experience, but from people I've seen on stage. It's just if that is solid, your show is solid usually. Uh,
Yeah, you know, listen, it's a very intimate relationship, because they have to be able to a really good, first of all, a good accompanist is a very different thing from a great player. Somebody who is acting with you, but lets you be above the music, you know,
mhm,
that you both float together, but that everything is pushing you toward telling the story. And that's a real gift that not a lot of great virtuoso players have, is that
yes.
ability to support and tell the
Mhm.
story at the same time. And Chris is one of the most brilliant at that. I mean, I've been very lucky that I work with some great people, and um, you know, you find the one that just that feels like home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Chris feels like home with me.
Yeah. It just sort of clicks. It's like romance in a way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it is. I mean, you know, our first date was at the Russian tea room. He was filling in for my
Oh,
music director at the time that was very sick. And it was kind of like, here, play this. I gave him all my music, and, you know, and he played it quite beautifully. And I thought, well, you know, this is going to be a big transition for me. My music director of 16 years was very, very ill. And so I knew that there was going to be a change coming. And, you know, I tried out quite a few music directors, and the one that just felt like home was Chris. So,
has Chris done a lot of the arrangements for you as well? Because I know how important they are.
yeah, you know, we have a great little triad: Chris Denny, Barry Kleinbord, and myself. Barry is
Ah,
the director. And the two of them are um, they've worked together a long time too. And so they have a shorthand. The three of us now have a shorthand. And so it's, you know, usually one of us will bring in something and then we'll work on it. And one of us will have you know, a great idea about what to do with it. But usually it's the two of them that
okay.
will have a great idea about it. And I just memorize it. And
All right. I mean, I ask because I'm fascinated about, the process and how other
yeah.
other singers do it. So we talked about what you're doing in St. Louis. For people who are watching this, heaven knows when in the future. Um, what are some of your other current projects you have going on right now?
Well, you know, for a person who's at the same age as a lot of my friends who are retiring, I seem to be very busy. So after St. Louis, I'm doing a show with a friend of mine. His name is Louis Rosen, who's a songwriter, and we'll be doing a show here and then in Chicago
Well,
of his music and some of my uh, my friend's music, Brian Lasser, who is my music director who passed away. And
okay.
Brian was a great writer, and Louis and he were friends. And so we'll be doing a show at Chelsea Table and Stage in May, and then going to Chicago with that same show. And in August, I'll be doing Ravinia outside of
Oh,
Chicago
okay.
with
Yeah.
the Chicago Symphony.
Oh, that's a big.
And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. It's the music of Henry Mancini with Norm Lewis, myself, and Jesse Mueller.
Oh,
And so should be a lot of fun. Yeah. With Kevin Stites conducting, who I just adore Kevin Stites.
okay.
And yeah, so yeah, I mean, that, and then in the fall, another show at Birdland, and you just keep going, till somebody tells you to stop.
This is so true. And of course, all you watching out there, just check the video description field down here. And I will have Karen's website there. You can go check that out and find out, where in the world is Karen Mason or Carmen San Diego right now. So,
Are you a singer, Chuck?
well, there has been some debate on that, but I'm an actor who sings. That would be a better description.
Oh, cool.
So I've done some musicals. I was in Ragtime just last year with a
Oh,
local
what a
company.
beautiful show that is.
Isn't it? Oh my God, I love that show. I've done it twice, both times, of course, grandfather, because who else am I going to be? But yeah, I love that score. It's wonderful.
Oh, the two of them are, amazing. Yeah.
And there's another team, that a lot of people may not know their names, Flaherty and Aarons, but they've written a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, I do think it's just the culture. I think it's, that songs don't come from Broadway the way that it used to be. It's not picked from there to become a big popular classic, a big standard. And Broadway's kind of now it's people go to Broadway to enjoy Broadway, not and what Broadway has to offer, as opposed to, oh, I'm gonna sing that song and make it a big hit. That just doesn't happen the same way. So
yeah, this is not quite the same. I agree.
No, it's not. Yeah.
But anyway, so great. I think we've covered the main points we wanted to get out there. Once again, check out the links below to find out more about the show at the Cabaret Project at the Sheldon here in St. Louis and upcoming shows with my guest, Karen Mason. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off here?
No, I hope people come. I don't know if anybody I went to school with is still living in Florissant or in
I'm
any
sure
of the
they are.
environs. But I hope they come and say hello, because I think it's just going to be, this is a fun show. We have a great time. And how can you miss starting with all that jazz? It's a great number. We end with Cabaret.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of great music. We do New York. So we get all the big hits in there.
That's cool. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you. I know.
And for everybody else out there, listen, spread the word about Chuck's Culture Channel. Remember, I do not take ads for this show. I am not making money off of it. So please tell your friends about what I'm doing here. Karen Mason, thanks so much. And looking forward to seeing your show and whatever else you're doing next.
Thanks, Chuck, so much.
Bye, folks.
Soon I'll have my days and nights of wonderful clearing, beautiful